right.
Okay, let me just, one second, I got to get the IMDb page.
Dig it. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. It's a good day. It's beautiful out. I got my espresso. We're going to talk about the finale. I'm doing pretty good.
Yay. And you're going to join us for the Wonder Woman chat later, correct? Cool.
5 o'clock, right?
5 o'clock. That's when it is, as far as I know.
How was your New Year?
My New Year was very good. It was nice. It was quiet. Got nothing done. It has been a complete waste of time this whole couple of days, but I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, I feel like we got so many days off, but like all these things that I needed to get done, I was still putting them off. And
yeah,
a whole bunch of stuff I'm going to try to get done tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you didn't push because I really couldn't do this tomorrow because I've got to wash all the laundry that has not been washed in the last 2 weeks. So,
Gotcha.
You know, I can't do the spot washes anymore. Yeah, Tristan decided he doesn't want to join us. It's okay.
It's all right. I sent it to him just in case.
I know. Okay. Well, what? I wanted you to wear the helmet because you've got the headphones that can wear the helmet. If you want to hand me the helmet, I'll try and put it on. Give me the helmet. We'll try and put it on. Okay. Just a second, Mozz.
This should be fun.
Okay. I don't want to get this over my how to get this. Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, let me see. Let me see what I can do here. Yeah. There we go. I can do this for right now. Yeah, so I'll put it on for the start. Can we get this in the back here? Yeah, no,
I like it.
Yeah, the headphones are just a little too big.
I mean, you don't need the headphones on. You can have, your glasses and your headphones off just for the intro.
Yeah, well, no, because if I don't have the headphones on, it won't hear me. Well, I mean...
Well, you could hold the mic up underneath.
Yeah, I guess I could. Here we go. We can do it like this. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that works.
Oh, it's okay. I haven't done the intro yet. So I'll do the intro. And then I've got to... you want to give me your headphones? We can try it with your headphones. I got to figure out how to get this thing back together again.
Why don't you have Tristan stand behind you?
Okay, you got that.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second.
Tristan, stand behind him and just hold it.
You're gonna have to put it in chin first.
Okay.
I don't think that's not the headphone jack. That's the
No,
headphone.
that's the power jack.
That's the.
Oh, that's why, because I pulled out. I see what I did.
No, wrong way.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me, Mozz?
Perfectly. Crystal clear.
Okay, why are you not coming through my headphones? That's the only problem.
Testing. 1, 2.
Hi, Mozz.
Second.
What up, Tristan?
1 second.
Aren't you the tall for a stormtrooper?
Hey, stormtroopers come in all sizes, and they're all beautiful in their own way.
How does that sound, Mozz?
That sounds doable.
Okay. I just wish I could hear you properly. Okay.
I mean, you're gonna take it off in a minute anyway, so.
Yeah, I'll try to. I might switch back to my headphones then.
Yep.
Okay. Are you ready?
Hey, Mozz.
Let's do it.
Okay. I just want to make sure I show up here. Let me turn off my picture here. How do I turn off my picture? 1 second. Okay. Very good, Tristan. Oh, God. Where's the button for, the background? Oh, well, I'll leave it there. As long as I don't move too much, I won't disappear. Okay, whenever you're ready, Mozz.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's start it. Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. Arrgh. I am your captain, Charlie the Professor Esser. And with me, as always, is me skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozzy. Oh, I keep on disappearing here. I'm stuck on a ghost ship. Okay. Hey, Mozz. Welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead and the final episode of The Mandalorian. Okay.
You may want to switch to the other headset because, yeah.
No, the other.
Oh,
God.
there we are. There we are.
Much better. Yeah, they don't work as well on the computer. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, welcome to Full Stream Ahead, everybody. So glad you joined us. This is the final episode of this season of The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian, Season 2, Episode 8, Chapter 16, The Rescue. The Mandalorian and his allies attempt a daring rescue. Director is Peyton Reed. Writers are Jon Favreau. And, of course, based on Star Wars by George Lucas. Not even characters. Yeah. I don't know how much.
By George Lucas.
No problem. Thank you, Tristan. So, yes, Tristan wanted me to wear the helmet, so you all got to see the helmet. Hopefully the sound quality was not too bad.
Doable.
Gets us through the scene.
Right.
Oh, goodness. So, Mozz, I have to say, I'm a little disappointed Mayfield doesn't show up in this.
I am too, but they gave us enough for me to still be hungry for more Mayfield.
Oh,
and who knows what we'll get, Mayfield and Cara Dune and, some other spin-off series. I definitely think he's going to be back.
Yeah, well, we're going to get Ming-Na Wen and Cara Dune. I'm forgetting Ming-Na Wen's character right now. But they're going to be back because they're going to be at odds at some point since Cara Dune has got the badge now.
True.
This is the thing. It's like,
I feel it's going to be one of those where they start out at odds, but then in the end, Cara Dune's like, yeah, take your thing and get off. I'll hold him off.
You hope, unless Cara Dune's sent to go bring her in, That's the thing. It's like, we know from the after credit scene, we haven't seen the last of Ming-Na Wen, and we know she is not on the side of the Angels. You know what I mean? That we know.
Well, I mean, Boba has his code, and she's...
Yeah, but so here's what I'll say. So as I've said, okay, so spoilers for the end of this. If you did not watch the whole episode yet, please watch it.
Why are you here?
Yeah, why are you here? This has been out for a while. We're a little late to the game.
No, but what I mean is you come watch these things once you've seen the episode for a little bit more insight. So.
Yeah, but in that moment, at the end, we do get that next December, and this has been stated, next December, in the Mandalorian's time slot, or possibly with the Mandalorian, will be the Book of Boba Fett. And we see that Ming-Na and Boba Fett basically just took over the Hutt's palace. Now, I'm going to be very interested to see what happens with this. I really want to see if we get more Hutts. Because I like the Hutts. This is what I've always said, when Jabba's mad about Han dumping the cargo that gets him frozen, it is because he was running guns, and you don't need to run guns to the Empire. The Empire has guns; they're fine. They don't need you to run them guns. They don't need you to smuggle guns to the Empire. He's smuggling guns to the rebels, so at a nice profit, of course, but still, the fact of the matter is Jabba the Hutt is the unsung hero of the rebellion. Most likely, every phaser, every X-Wing they got, it all came through Hutco, a subsidiary of Huttese Enterprises.
Maybe the Hutts are building into every single droid, or maybe there's a hut for each job, like a gunsmith hut.
Well, I mean, the Hutts clearly are serving a purpose sort of similar to what you might consider the Ferengi in the Star Wars universe, where they're not necessarily the makers of things, although they can make things too. but they are mostly sellers of things. They are a culture that's based on commerce and the glories of commerce, as noble as freaking the Klingons and the glories of war. You know, and I will say this: I would rather live in a world of commerce than a world of war.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, when you really think about it, at the end of the day, it's like, you know, at least nobody dies at the end of the business deal. Maybe somebody loses their house, but at least nobody killed you. You know,
Right.
I'd rather die in glorious bankruptcy than glorious battle, but that's my opinion. What's yours? But so exactly what role the Hutt? So I'm really interested to see now that at the end of this, that Boba has taken over Jabba's palace, because Jabba does have a son, if we see other Hutts coming in to challenge him next year. So that's going to be interesting. That's the question. Who's going to want to take over Hutt's palace? Who's going to want to take over basically what I assume is sort of a de facto governorship?
Or maybe that's what will happen. Like at the end of the season, you get Mando coming back to help him, you know, ward off any would-be usurpers. Yeah. And then we get, you know, leading into the next season, we get Mando back.
Maybe. We'll see. Or Cara Dune or Mayfield. Mayfield, right. I think, is the real likely guy to show up there. I can absolutely see Mayfield showing up.
That'd be great.
You know, that's the thing. It's not like he's a good guy now. You know, he's a hired gun, you know, and they let him go free. So he's probably, it's not like he's going to stay on that planet and become a farmer. Right. You know, he's going to go live a life and he's going to do what he can do, which is, I'm really good at shooting things. That's my skill. That's what I got to sell. So,
right.
Yeah, I expect to see Mayfield back. Or, you know, I mean, because it's not like he's going to wind up a marshal. Although maybe that's like his big redemption arc is that he sets himself up as like the local gunslinger on that planet. Then he gets to be a marshal. That'd be funny.
I like that. That sounds fun to me.
Well, you know, a lot of, you know, when you think about your Old West stereotypes, that idea of the hired gun who becomes a marshal, that's not unheard of, you know?
Yeah, I like that for Mayfield. I think that'd be fun.
That would be fun. That would be fun. But, you know, that is just the end credit scene. Let's talk about the rest of the film. So we're going to do the raid on the Star Cruiser that Gideon is in. And part of this is they have to capture the Tri-Wing that the scientist is in. Why the scientist is in there, it's never given. It's never. They know he's there, but you know, as we know about the Empire, even they have really bad password security. You know, it's an old code, but it checks out. You know?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, you know, it's like they want to know if they ask, "Are you in the rebellion?" It's like, no. Okay, then come on in. They're very, very nice about that. But they basically kidnap our doctor, and I forget the doctor's name. Still my IMDb open. Dr. Pershing, that's his name. I knew he had a weird name. No doubt named after Blackjack Pershing, the famed American general, interestingly enough. Yeah, so, you know, who knows? They capture Dr. Pershing, and, you know, it's sort of the Von Brownian quality of Dr. Pershing. The idea that, you know, he's just all about the science. He really doesn't care who's finding it.
Right.
But also doesn't care if he has to commit, you know, atrocities to do it. You know, he's a clone engineer, you know,
that's where the science is being done. That's where I need to be if I want to be at the forefront of discovery. Mm-hmm. And there's unpleasant things that go along with it, but, you know, they would go along without my presence. And if someone has to be in the presence, might as well be me.
That's a very good point, Mr. Winsler. You know, it's if I didn't do it, someone else would. And
right. And when it comes to points of, you know, where you need to make a choice, maybe Grogu's alive because this person was in that position instead of somebody else.
Yeah, although it seems like they wanted Grogu alive, they never really wanted Grogu dead. They
No,
just
I got the sense that he was the one holding back the onslaught of saying, take all his blood. And he's saying, no, look. If we
Yeah.
take little by little, we can keep him alive and we can continue to get samples. And like, I'm sure some overzealous person would have been like, no, just get the bloods, get the organs too. Let's see,
yes.
So I like to think that maybe he's been watching over Grogu.
Maybe he's a better person than he seems. And maybe we'll see him back next season. We don't know. Pershing doesn't die at the end of this, In fact, I think Pershing probably just winds himself up at a rebel prison, much like Mayfield at the start of this, just tearing apart old TIE fighters.
Probably too valuable to waste that way. If you have him in your grasp, you use him for what he's good for.
So you think they paperclip him? Just the whole, we know you're a Nazi scientist, but you know what?
Right.
You're part of the Republic. I just give you a nice clean dossier. Let's see if you can grow. Maybe you can grow us a few Grogus. Yeah. So that is that. So, but they capture Pershing. They invade the ship. They invade Moff Gideon's ship. And then starts the big fight. And it's interesting because, of course, you have Cara Dune and Bo-Katan and
Her
Fennec
sidekick.
Shand. Yeah, Bo-Katan, her sidekick. I don't think I have her name here. Although it's a nice little, actually even before that, I gotta step back to get that scene, where they actually recruit Bo-Katan, and you get a real back and forth between Boba and her, where he says, it's my father's armor. He says, don't you mean your donor's armor?
Yeah, like, you're not a Mandalorian. I never said I was.
Exactly. But, it also reminds you what a short period of time all of the Skywalker story takes place in. And I think people often forget that because it actually seemed like it was a long time for us, but really between the fall of the Empire and the rise of the First Order and the fall of the Republic and the entire existence of the Empire, it's pretty much real time. It's like a few years. It's like, it's like, as people say, Justin Bieber has been part of American culture longer than the Confederacy. The Nazis existed for less time than Beanie Babies. That's this is a truth that we often overlook in these kinds of things, that for whatever Emperor Palpatine did, it basically existed for the entire lifespan of Luke Skywalker in the first film. Wow. That by the time Luke Skywalker is probably in his mid-20s, the entire empire has been destroyed. So a galactic empire completely dismantled in that time, because the empire rises when Luke Skywalker is born, and he's still, by the time we see him again at the end of this, he's still this young guy. He's still a guy probably at most in his 30s, but probably in his early 20s. He's a teenage farm boy when he starts. By the end of it, he's, late 20s, and that's the empire. It really did not last that long. And really the fact of the matter is that what allowed the empire to rise was that it was built on the questionable practices of the Republic long before it. Which is why the rebellion or the New Republic is in such disarray, because they don't have an empire to build upon. They're kind of like Iraq after the fall of Saddam, and suddenly there's you do a de-Baathification, and suddenly now, that guy was part of the Ba'ath Party, but he was also the accountant. And we actually do need more accountants, and we do need more cops, and we do need all these people. And if we're going to separate out the bad people, how do we get this empire? How do we get the Republic to work without the support staff? Because as we've said, the Republic was, had clone labs and doing all these things, had slaves and all these things long before the Empire rose. So most of the guys in the Republic, they were just accountants. They were just, random moffs doing their job day to day. Some were evil. A lot of people were in the military. They were admirals and what have you. And then all of a sudden one day, now one of the senators now says he's the emperor. Okay, I don't know. I still have to do my job. And then it all falls, and now suddenly with the rise of the rebellion, it's a little more slipshod, which of course is exactly where the Hutts should be taking over. But of course, Jabba got killed at the end of Empire Strikes Back, so there's no Hutt boss in charge, which is how.
It seems like somebody spilled the beans, and they're just trying to catch up and pick all the pieces up. They're collecting intention from all these little areas, saying, "We got you. You got us too, right?"
Yeah. Although to that end, I think maybe if there is a moral of the story to take away, it's that they're doing their best, and the Empire is in disarray. But right now is the time when guys like a Hutt can rise in stature. This is the chaos when a local warlord can sort of establish themselves as, well, actually, you know what? I'm actually going to be in charge of this, and I'll work with the Republic as I need to. I'll work with whatever's left of the Empire as I need to. Because day to day, planet to planet, everybody just does their job. And whether you're under the Republic or you're under the Empire, as can be pointed out, Tatooine was still a hive of scum and villainy under the Empire. It's, when people like to say, oh, yes, but look how chaotic and dangerous our world is now that the Empire's fault. It's like, were you here last week? Were you here before the Empire fell? It was always this. But our heroes get on the ship. They go, hall by hall, a lot of shooting. We get a nice ladies doing it scene. Because ever since the Endgame scene with all the female characters doing their girl power stance, everyone wants to do that, and everyone does it better. I think the boys did it better. I think this show did it a lot better because it's not
one scene where they do that almost a WWE tag team move where she reels them in with her grappling hook, and the other girl comes in and like knees the dude in the chest. That was pretty awesome.
Well, it's pretty awesome. I mean, the fight choreography on these shows is what I'm going to say. I actually think sometimes the stuff that's for streaming, and we think back to stuff like The Defenders and Daredevil, I think the fight choreography is so much better in those things than we get in the big movie theaters. Because I think that when they do the big movie, they want to do the open air scenes, and you get the basic, why doesn't Spider-Man do more stuff in Queens? It's like, well, because there's not any building for him to swing off of. It's like you need the close quarters to really do a fight well. Yeah. That the more open air it is, it just becomes a punching match. But if suddenly someone can run up a wall and
from Daredevil, or the prison scene from Punisher, or was that also from Daredevil? But it was a Punisher
exactly.
scene. Yeah.
That's also Daredevil. They had really good fight scenes in Daredevil. Although, not for nothing, I do think they had a few good ones with Luke Cage and with Jessica Jones too, and and probably a few that were actually really nice with Iron Fist. Although I think in those they're all a little bit more stylized because they are all professional martial artists as the idea. So you're going to have more that are more strictly punching battles rather than, doing a lot of the
if I may, I hate to continue ragging on Iron Fist, but a lot of their fight sequences looked choreographed as opposed to, I was pulled out of the reality of the situation by saying, oh, they look like they're doing a somersault and blah, blah. So it's like a little bit not as polished as it was in the other shows.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that might have been a conscious choice because, as I said, I think they're supposed to be, it's sort of like and this is a thing. We'll talk about this when we talk about Wonder Woman later. Although before, for those of you listening, that Amazons prepare for war, they never actually go to war. And so I'm sure in a lot of ways, in Kunlun, they're learning to fight, but they almost never actually fight someone.
Right.
It's fighting within the rules and the structures and the requirements of the fight.
That's why you see in China, there's a big thing of like all these kung fu masters getting beat up by MMA fighters. They show up to challenge and then they get destroyed. And they're like, wait a second, I thought this was supposed to work.
Yeah, well, of course, because, this was Bruce Lee's whole thing is like, you can fight, but that's not how you fight,
Right.
That the rules of kung fu are rules, but there are no rules in a fight. So you have to be like the water, as Bruce Lee would say, which is why he really dominated that field.
Right.
And it's not to say he was the only person or even the first person to come up with that idea, but that sort of, and of course, anytime that any fighting style gets too ritualized, it tends to limit its effectiveness in a fight. That's just my opinion. But anyway, boxers are great. I would not want to get into a fight with Mike Tyson even now.
Good Lord.
But the fact of the matter is that if you're, fighting by the rules, there are very specific moves you can and can't do, and that makes it a little harder. But as they're going through, what they need to establish in this is, Bo-Katan and her team and all the other people are going to take the bridge. Din Djarin is going to find Grogu. And that's how they're splitting the forces. And they have to somehow stop the Dark Troopers because they know that they've turned on the Dark Troopers and the Dark Troopers are coming. And this is our threat of the week.
Right.
And we see that Din Djarin is able to lock the Dark Troopers before they come out, but one gets out, and then we get this really, I think a really good robot fighting match, where he has to defeat this guy with his Beskar spear.
So, what are these guys made out of?
How hard it.
I lost you for a second. I keep wondering, what the Dark Troopers are made of, because at some point, I lost you for a second.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm wondering if that's a bug or a feature that that the Dark Troopers are all kept in a room that can be, ejected at one moment, so that if you ever do have a problem with them, you can just get rid of them all right away.
Right, either that or that's where they launch to go to missions,
I mean, yeah, I guess that's a possibility too.
Because in the end, we end up seeing that they're perfectly fine. They're not going to go out into the cold, vacuum of space and implode or, freeze and break apart or nothing. They're made to handle this. So, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure if that's a bug or a feature.
I would say it's a feature.
It's a feature
that's my opinion.
Blow them all out.
Not blow them all out, but that's where they launch to go to. They say, okay, go to the planet's surface or go take over the ship, or you're not going to go out into a hallway, get into an elevator and then blah, blah, blah. Just open the door, let them fly out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see that, especially if you're trying to be super efficient with your energy resources, because we know that they have really difficult battery problems.
Right. But what are they made of?
They are made out of probably Durasteel, which is the Beskar alloy.
Okay, so when he's punching Din Djarin in the face, right? The helmet doesn't bend or dent at all because it's made of Beskar. The wall behind him dents, but the droid's hands, when he's punching him, don't show any effect either, leading me to think that they're also made of Beskar. But then, a lightsaber goes through them like it's nothing. So, like...
Yeah. Well, that is also possibly what you deal with in focusing on joints. Because that's the thing. It's like, lightsaber can't go through Beskar, but, what's his name?
A lightsaber did seem to go through these droids without a problem, so it must not have been Beskar or something. But then how did it stand up to the Beskar when it was enough force to dent something else behind it?
Because it's still so it's sort of the metallurgical idea is, so if we're assuming it's Durasteel, which I believe is supposed to be a steel Beskar alloy, where you're infusing Beskar into the steel to make it to be almost as strong as Beskar, but it's not as strong as Beskar. But then if it's like, so let's say that Durasteel has half the strength of Beskar, then if you have 2 inches of Durasteel, that's as strong as 1 inch of Beskar. Roughly.
All right.
And so that's the idea, that they have these joints, and for what it's worth, the hands may not be being damaged by hitting
Beskar,
but it also doesn't mean that they weren't. Essentially, it's like when you get into a car accident, and one car doesn't have any damage, but the other car is totaled. I don't know where I'm going with this, but the idea is that, that there could have been much more damage than you saw just because you didn't see it,
Fair enough.
But, and when you talk, because again, it's the Beskar spirit, putting the CPU in the head of any robot design, it's like, there's no reason just to not make it a box.
Right.
I always remember when you ever watch like the robot fights, there's always like that one big box robot that just has a big hammer stuck to it.
Yeah.
And those always dominate.
Design. Nothing complicated. Don't make it humanoid. Why do the eyes have to be up there? Shouldn't it have sensors and cameras all over, in its feet, in its knees, in its chest, and its in its back? The insistence on giving it human vision is silly.
Exactly. And I think they do stuff that goes beyond that with this. And this is actually an interesting theory I have about astromechs, which is whether or not they are putting... Astromechs are the R2-D2 type droids. The BB-8, the ones that are... That never get their minds wiped, interestingly enough. And are very communicative with their pilots, because these are the guys that basically are doing the work of the flying for the pilots. And I do wonder if they have some organic material in them, because I think one of the things they were doing with Grogu and getting his midichlorians is I think they were infusing the Dark Troopers with some force sensitivity, because that's why when the mysterious stranger shows up at the end, they all stop. Because they sense that. They know that something just showed up that is problematic for them. Because if you think about it, they're just punching through a door. There's no reason for them to know that somebody that's one lone X-Wing just docked on the far side of the ship.
Yeah.
But they all stop because they know, this is the bigger threat. This is what we have to deal with now. Because they could, like, if they just said, someone just docked, we'll send half of our guys there. We're going to continue punching through the door. That they all stopped punching through the door, it's because they knew how much of a threat that was, because they felt that this was a force user. And droids typically can't sense the force because they're not organic. Right. But if you were to, but as we know, there are cybernetic beings, and all life has the force flowing through it. So it means that anything that can be alive can feel the force flow through it. And basically you can do the science of it. You can work out how these
Pershing says though that the last bit of weakness they had to remove was the human element. So
there's a lot of things that aren't human that are alive.
Oh, that's fair.
All you need is anything that is organic to keep the midichlorians going.
So imagine if they pulled out like an organ or a heart or something, and there's a box in there that artificially keeps it pumping, and that blood somehow goes through and lubricates certain portions of where it's not nerve endings, but whatever sensory sort of communicative wires or pathways there are. And with that, the force sensitive cells can buzz electronically to the point where
Exactly.
this thing can feel it. And oh, that's so fascinating.
Yeah, and this is pure headcanon. This is just my idea, but I think that technology has existed for a while because I think there is an organic component to astromechs, which is why astromechs are able to communicate so well with their human pilots in a way that I don't think that protocol droids can. I think protocol droids are just droids. Same thing with any other any other bipedal droid. But I think when you get to the astromechs, I get the feeling that they're designed to maintain some kind of an organic system that allows them to better communicate with their hosts or with their pilots. And just a theory, but I think that might be something that they're building towards. And I think that idea of that astromech technology, what if we could make our death troopers force sensitive? And I think that worked out. I mean, I think it worked out coolly, and the way that the fight scene goes is really good. Before that, we do have effectively the big fight between Din Djarin and Moff Gideon. Yeah, and that is quite a fight. And we get to see the Darksaber in use
against Beskar.
And against Beskar. And this is the thing. People are saying, oh, the Darksaber, because here when we see the spear against Darksaber, the Beskar starts to glow, which it didn't when Ashoka Tano was fighting the lady who had the Beskar spear beforehand. It didn't glow when she hit it. It would just basically deflect the...
Right, but was there any sustained contact, or was it just like a glancing sort of...
I don't remember exactly, but people start to say, "Oh, so the Darksaber can pierce Beskar," and that's not what we see.
No, because it tried, it got close, but not quite.
Yeah. What it can do is it can heat Beskar up, and Beskar can be heated, and this is actually something that I think people misunderstand about Beskar, because people say, "Oh, well, if you can melt Beskar, why can't a laser blast do it?" Like if it's just in a forge. If you can forge Beskar, then why can't you do this with Beskar? I don't think we ever see anyone forge Beskar. We see that Beskar is a super...
Don't we see them melt it down in the first season?
Yes. But that's casting. That's not forging.
What's the difference between casting and forging?
Well, and you can forge... So when you forge something, essentially it's when you're building it. So when you take iron and you're hammering it to turn it into steel. Okay, what you're doing is you're heating up the iron, and then you're infusing it with carbon to build steel, and you're hammering it and shaping it. And that's a different process than when you're just casting something. So
it has to be completely melted into a mold, essentially,
exactly.
Instead of beating it into submission.
Yeah, and that is what we see. Now, you can also heat something up, and you can hammer it to bend it a little bit, but we don't see anyone ever actually really working with Beskar the way that you would work with iron.
Interesting.
Beskar is too heavy of an element. It's more similar to the way that they've described adamantium in Marvel Comics, which is that once it hardens, it's hard. You're done. That's its shape. You're not going to change its shape anytime soon. You can't hit it with a hammer. You can't turn it into something else unless you are able to actually reliquefy it. And I think that's what happens with Beskar. Now, I can see someone liquefying Beskar and then folding that into steel to make Durasteel. And I can see people using Beskar in that way to make stronger and stronger metal alloys. But pure Beskar, I get the feeling, it's like titanium. It's just a super hard element that you're just not going to easily bend or break.
That raises some interesting questions about how Beskar is mined. Like, do they have to like excavate everything around like this, football field size deposit and then lift the whole thing out? But then if it can't be broken, how do you break it? How do you,
Well, no. Well, what you would do, it's the same way that actually most metals are. Because it's like when you pull gold out of the ground, it's not like gold. When they say gold ore, it's usually, sometimes you'll get a vein, but usually you have the gold mixed into another rock, and you have to essentially heat it up to melt the gold out of it. Now, fortunately,
right? But okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. So essentially, and then what you can do is like when you melt it sometime, and when you do this with iron, the impurities rise to the top. The denser metal goes to the bottom, and the lighter metal goes to the top. I think it's something similar they do with aluminum when they melt down aluminum, because aluminum has an incredibly high melting point. Little known fact. Which is why you don't see, which is why silver is used more in the ancient world than aluminum, because they had no idea what aluminum was, because it was too hard to get. That's, when everyone says, gold is the most valuable thing because, for whatever reason, but actually that was just the most common shiny element, shiny metal they could find. They liked shiny metals. This was actually a really common, easy to use shiny metal. It wasn't even that it was the rarest shiny metal. In fact, if it had been more rare, it wouldn't have been as valuable. But it was just a good shiny metal to use as a mode of commerce that they could use. It is rare, don't get me wrong. It's not like there's,
but it had to be enough supply for it to be used.
Exactly. I mean, truth be told, if they could have made glass metal, if they could have made glass earlier in history, that might have been what it is, because there is a lot of glass. What they wanted was they wanted something something pretty and shiny, and that could be exchanged. So,
right.
Hindsight, The moral of the story is nothing is of value, right. Except what we say it is. But yes,
leading interestingly to our point about the dark saber, where we end up with Moff Gideon surrendering to Din Djarin.
Well, yeah. Well, basically, getting his butt handed to him by Din Djarin, and Din picks up the saber, and he says, "I caught him." And I
love the line where he stops and goes, "Oh, you're gonna let me live? Oh, this should be interesting." I thought that was great.
Well, yeah, exactly. But as Cara Dune points out, it's double the reward if he brings him in alive. Which is, of course, why the Mandalorians always try to bring him in alive, because if you bring him in alive, you get paid double.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Exactly. But then it gets to this whole thing about, no, she has to take, you can't just give it to her. And he's like, I don't want it. I don't want a dark saber.
It's yours.
Yeah, there you go. Have a good day.
And I love how much Moff Gideon is enjoying this moment. Oh, no, she can't just give it to you. She has to beat you.
Although at the same time, why can't he just give it to her?
Right.
Yeah. Tell everyone that
again, that leads to your point about like power and value only exist in things that we give to them, right? Mm-hmm. So if the truth of the matter is, like he says, the power doesn't come from any supernatural whatever, it's the narrative and the story that's built behind it, and how much power you give to it is how much allegiance you give to its ideal. Yeah. So if you are able to just take it, then you clearly don't think it has the power that you need it to have.
Well, and I guess that is really the point, because really, this is about what Bo-Katan.
It's not the way.
Yeah, exactly. Now she's getting all like, no. This is, which is funny, because of course at this whole time up until this point, he has been very much of his, this is the way and this is what we're going to do and this is how it has to be. And now it's like, well, all your people have been saying, do what is right, and that be the whole of the law. And now that I'm saying, well, take your dang sword, take your dang magic swordy. I don't need it. I've got a freaking spear. That's cool.
She's at a very interesting crossroads, because right from the beginning of the episode, when she says to him, he has something that belongs to me, and I will have it, and I will rule Mandalore. There's a little twinge of the dark side in her ambitious nature.
Yeah.
And now she has to really, like, she could hide it before. she could not look at it. She could hide it away in the back of her mind and pretend it isn't there, pretend she's still superior morality wise, and that her ethics are still intact. And now she has to confront that. Din Djarin's already been through Mayfield University and he's graduated. He understands the malleability of your moral code, if you find something else to belong to. And now she has to have this conversation with herself. Oh, what does this mean? Is the universe speaking? Is the way speaking through the universe and saying Din Djarin should be the leader of Mandalore? Do I acquiesce to that? Do I let go of my ambitions, or what do I have to do? It's so interesting, so fascinating, and you see her struggle with this, and I wish we had more time to deal with that. But I guess that's the sort of like the amuse-bouche they gave us. Like, this is what you got to look forward to before we're rudely interrupted by that X-Wing.
Yes. Well, but good that he showed up.
Yes, indeed. But
I hope that's not the last we saw of Grogu. Although he does say, "I will visit you," and it's interesting. It's going to be that interesting question. Like, has Luke learned the lesson? Maybe let people have familial attachments. That maybe Yoda was wrong, or to be more specific, that Obi-Wan was wrong. That the smart way to help Anakin would have been to make sure that he could stay in touch with his mom and to have his mom in his life and to do all this. And maybe Grogu should see, Din from every so often. He should come visit him on the weekends. He should come home for Life Day. They should have a big Life Day episode where Din has Grogu come by, and he's like a little bit older now, and he's got his own little lightsaber.
It's an interesting question. Like, is it possible to work for the greater good if you have too much to protect, too much to be selfish about? Is that the reason you don't have attachments? But without it, is there an integral part of being human that you miss out on, that without which you can't interpret situations in a way that relates to everybody that you're trying to help, in a way that you can actually help them? So you're useless to them unless you engage in this part of life. But there are dangers. So I guess the lesson is the way you should go about it is not to eliminate the temptation, but to learn to engage with it in a healthier way.
Well, that is to me the whole of the entire Skywalker saga. That when Rey at the end says, "I'm a Skywalker," not a Jedi, not a Sith, I'm a Skywalker. And they may still be using the term Jedi colloquially based on the holiday special we got from Lego. But the fact of the matter is that she says at the end, "I'm a Jedi." Or she says at the end, "I'm a Skywalker." And because
kind of like Boba Fett saying, "I'm not a Mandalorian. I'm just a guy trying to make his way through the galaxy. I am
exactly." But this is the thing. This is my opinion. And I was watching actually a little CBR thing on YouTube this day about force-sensitive races. And essentially what you have is a lot of force-sensitive races who get pulled to the dark side because essentially once you are a force-sensitive being, you try to control the force. And because you try to control the force, you are inherently damaging. You're interfering with the way the force is supposed to.
You're interfering with its flow. It's like trying to redirect a river or putting a dam up so you can make electricity.
Exactly, and that's going to have downstream consequences, and also downstream consequences for you because now things aren't flowing naturally, and things aren't. You're getting that joy of cheap electricity, and you're also not caring about the people downstream who now lost their water supply, and also now maybe you're going to use more electricity because, hey, it's so cheap, why not, And it is that idea. And there was one race which I thought was really interesting, was the race that was super force sensitive, and they basically just used it to look into the future. And so essentially they got really chill because they could see the future. So when the Empire comes, they're like, "Oh, okay, hi guys. Yeah, no, you'll be done in about 20 years, but that's fine. You guys can build your bases. That's fine. We got no problem. We have no interest in your little galactic tit for tat because we can see the time stream and we know, all of your bases will come to naught. You know, we know that all of this it comes to dross in the end, and that's fine. We're just super chill because we can see the time stream. And that was like the one thing that's, oh yeah. And I kind of feel that that's what Yoda's race is that they are these beings that are just, and interesting enough, they weren't even mentioned in the list because I don't think there's enough Tridactyls where they can say anything definitively about Tridactyls. But my opinion is that they must be beings that just are so in tune with the Force that it's like, you know, it'd be like someone saying, oh, I've learned that you can blow air out of your lungs and that can push things forward. It's like, yeah, I know, because that's what air does. But if you were a being that grew up on a planet without air and you suddenly discovered air and air pressure, you'd be like, oh my goodness, what an amazing force. How can I control this?
Yeah, like water on Arrakis in Dune.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Or anywhere, or in Ice Pirates. Because that was the one substance that actually did have value. Was water. Anyway, yeah, but in the end, the Dark Troopers are thoroughly defeated by one spoiler, Luke Skywalker, because that's who got reached out to. And the second I saw the X-wing, I was like, oh, I know who owns an X-wing. You know, just rolling up in his 1970s X-wing, man. That's not Wedge Antilles, kids. That's Luke, and. You know, he comes in and he...
And there's an interesting moment where Moff Gideon gets up and he's terrified of what he sees on the screen. Does he recognize who it is? Or like Moff Gideon's always in control. Even when he's been captured, he's got his little games that he's playing. But you know, his puppeteer strings are still intact and he's still moving pieces. But now he's completely just like, why is he so afraid?
Because he knows he knows who that is. Basically, he knows that's either Ashoka Tano or it's Luke Skywalker. Because he knows both are out there. He knows that Luke does have an X-wing. You know, everyone knows Luke has an X-wing. He blew up the Death Star with it. You know,
right. And then he turns around and tries to shoot Grogu.
Yeah, because his
I thought was interesting because that's of extreme value to the Empire. Why would he try to shoot Grogu? Just for them to not have it, I guess?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if I can't have it,
even then, wouldn't he think there's a possibility that the Empire can come back and get it? That's so integral to what they're trying to do with making, you know, their droids Force sensitive and whatnot.
Once he sees the X-wing, he knows his story's done.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Here's the thing. He has probably murdered a lot of people. They may still have the death penalty in the Republic. So he may be a dead man already. That is not something that he wants to risk. And if he's already a dead man, the one thing he can do for the Empire, because I can assume that basically, even though he seems so pragmatic, even though he seems Mayfeldian, he's not a Mayfeld. He's not a guy who's just doing this for his own self-aggrandizement. He's doing, you know, you don't rise in the Empire.
Right. If that general on the ship had the loyalty to take the bite of his, you know, electric cyanide pill, then he must have displayed that same sort of commitment to the cause to inspire that sort of loyalty.
Exactly.
So he himself must be terribly committed to the cause.
Exactly. And those that don't, those are the ones you can talk. Those are the Mayfields. Those are the guys who are like, which the other guy on the ship was more than happy to do.
Right. And he got shot in the back for it.
Well, shot in the head, shot in the face, actually. It's.
No, I thought you meant in the beginning where Pershing's two captors, one of them says, "Hey, I'm not with them." Pop, right in the back.
Oh yeah. But the other guy, because I'm sure they all have a electrocyanide pill kind of thing.
Right. That's why I was surprised that Moff Gideon decided to shoot himself as opposed to biting down on his, you know.
Well, maybe when you get to a certain rank, they don't make you have it anymore.
I guess.
I mean, there's possibilities. I don't know how it works, you know. Maybe if he didn't put it in that day. And I think he also wanted to make sure that he got Grogu first, you know.
Yeah.
Because he does want to kill Grogu. He's still trying to work his angles. And killing Grogu, I think, was his last attempt to find an angle. And then, you know, And also, we want Moff Gideon to be alive because we want Moff Gideon. We want our Hannibal Lecter scene next season. We have to visit Moff Gideon in the cell.
Yeah, I mean, however long you can have Giancarlo Esposito on your show is how long you should keep Giancarlo Esposito on your show.
Yeah, you should never bone him up on Breaking Bad. I'm just going to say that right now.
Although even then, man, what a beautiful, beautiful scene that was.
Oh yeah, he just comes out
amazing and like deserving of what an amazing character he was. That was a beautiful, beautiful death scene.
Yes, it was. It was. But yeah, I like the whole Grogu Din Djarin scene at the end, where Din Djarin just takes off his helmet and it's like you can always see all these, and then here he's like, I don't care about the rules anymore. I don't even know who or what a Mandalorian is anymore. I don't know who I am anymore. And it's kind of your basic Nietzschean idea of slaying the dragon. Nietzsche says that, the dragon is the rules that we've been raised with. And you must defeat the dragon to be the Ubermensch. You must go beyond what you were taught to make your own self who you are and to be a fully actualized being. And I think everyone else is still struggling with this. But I think when he takes off his helmet, he is saying, okay, I know I'm more than just the rules I've been taught.
And the funny part is,
I'm more than just a foundling.
The thing that brought him to this realization, he's saying goodbye to. Like he's giving everything up and taking the helmet off, but like the thing that he's taking it all for is taken away from him. So it's like everything that was his new guiding light, to which he could cling to if he was going to let go of this other thing. And now he's standing there with nothing to hold on to.
But that's what makes it more, you can, anyone can convert to a new faith. It takes real power to make your own faith.
Right. To stand at least for a moment in uncertainty and nothingness.
Well, exactly. And the idea is that he is coming to that understanding. It's,
it's interesting, like, talking about like lily padding from one, place of allegiance to another. The one thing that I thought should have been playing really heavily in his mind as he's taking that helmet off. It would have been okay if anybody else saw him take off his helmet, but there's a definite message sent to Bo-Katan if he takes his helmet off in front of her.
Oh, yeah.
It's a graduating to a different level in her eyes. And maybe the next place he finds his allegiance when he's standing with no feet to stand on, no ground to put his feet on, is to say, hey, there's the next lily pad. I can join the other Mandalorians and maybe find a different version of myself.
Yeah, and the fanfic's already being written.
Yeah.
There was a meme I saw, which is like, how to get the Darksaber. Phase Din Djarin death.
We can't even do that because there's that confrontation in between that. So, ugh.
Well, no, but because if they kiss, then it's like she can be saying, "Oh, let me hold your sword for you, honey."
Oh, gee.
and we're together. So, look at what we have. We're the power couple.
Yeah, I don't know. I did not get any sense of that chemistry between them at all.
No, there's not. But what I'm saying is, so essentially the argument is Bo-Katan the kind of person that would like, well, I guess I gotta marry him. It's like I can either kill him or marry him. Marry him sounds...
well, maybe not necessarily marry him, but like, recognize his role in leadership, to be subservient to him. I have to take that role.
Well, especially since he doesn't want the job.
Right.
But,
but it's like in Gladiator when he says, by gods, that's why it must be you. When he says to Maximus that he should be ruler simply because he says, with all my heart, no.
Yeah, well, exactly. But at the same time, I don't know if that's necessarily true because, the guy who doesn't want it, or to be more specific, the guy who has no interest in the day-to-day of the job, they can be good so long as they're willing to let someone else do the hard work. It's like Reagan didn't really care about the day-to-day. He was up there to make speeches, to wave at people, to go, he was there to be a figurehead, and he wanted to be a figurehead. It was a great job.
Mm.
You get to meet the Queen, you get to have tea. It's a good gig.
No, and from a cultural perspective, to sort of guide, the identity of a nation. It's a noble pursuit to be looking forward to.
Yeah. It's also a lot of work. It's also very difficult, and also maybe not what he wants to do.
Right.
And I think that's where you get into conflict, because for what it's worth, she's called the princess for a reason, because she is the princess of Mandalore. Her sister was the previous ruler of Mandalore before they ran afoul of the Empire, and Moff Gideon took her, because that was her Darksaber. And the Darksaber has gone through several hands, as Tristan will happily tell you someday, because it was, at one point, Darth Maul was the ruler of Mandalore. At one point, Jango Fett was the ruler of Mandalore.
And that has already come to pass before this meeting, right?
Right.
So when they're having their little tiff in the beginning, he has already been the ruler of Mandalore.
No, that's Boba Fett, not Jango Fett. His dad was, though.
Gotcha.
But when he lost the throne, obviously, he had to do other things. And maybe...
So she had to best Jango Fett in order to get the Darksaber?
No. I think someone else beat him.
Oh, and then
probably her father. Or maybe, I don't know if maybe Jango Fett was there and then Darth Maul bested him. Darth Maul, I think, gets it at one point. Right. Darth Maul was the ruler of Mandalore for a period. And again, when we're talking about these periods, we're talking about like a 20-year period where this thing is just changing hands.
So she already has experience after losing the Darksaber to serve under someone else who has what she used to have.
Well,
she already has that experience.
She has never had the Darksaber, I don't think.
Oh, doesn't?
Because her sister had the Darksaber.
So when she says it belongs to me, she just means by right of heir.
Yeah, exactly. So she's really always kind of. I mean, she's a great warrior. I'm not going to try and take it away from Bo-Katan in any way, but the fact of the matter is that no, she is of the line. She is the next in line by familial accession to wield the Darksaber and to be the ruler of Mandalore. But it was really her sister was the Queen of Mandalore under the Empire. So, as it goes. Anyway. Yeah, but that is where we leave it. Luke gets Grogu. He's going to take him back to the school. And I actually did think about this. Grogu will not be killed by
Anakin?
What's his name? No, not Anakin. No, the other guy. Han Solo's kid. Kylo, yeah. Because it's implied that Kylo killed a bunch of the other Padawans when he was there, much in similar to the way that Darth Vader did. Mm-hmm. But really, if we think about it, Kylo probably isn't born yet. So it's probably going to be another decade before he gets there, which means Grogu will actually have probably become a full Jedi by that point.
But still a baby? I mean, like he's 40 and still a baby, so another 10 years might only be like another couple of months in a Grogu's life.
Well, no, because based on the way they've done it, it's pretty clear that Grogu ages. It's like you do.
So when he hits puberty, he'll growth spurt it a little.
Exactly, because already he's vocalized. I'm really sad that we didn't hear him actually say any words. But he started to vocalize this season. So in 1 year, he went from being a newborn to suddenly heavily vocalizing.
Interesting.
To walking, to moving, to doing all these things. And as we saw, as an infant, he was already being trained in the Force.
That's true.
So basically, from birth, he was already doing this. So that's what they're establishing for us. So anyway, I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to the next round of The Mandalorian next year. And
it's extended family of shows as well.
Yeah, because we're going to get Rogue Squadron. produced by the great Patty Jenkins. Because just because a lot of people don't like your movie doesn't kill your career.
Right, especially since you've made so many good ones before.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I'm sorry. I think that we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about it later. You'll probably hear it before this, but Wonder Woman is not a bad film. It's not as bad as people are saying it is. It is a film you have to watch more than once.
Okay, I mean, I'm still.
I'm not saying it's a good film.
It's lazy storytelling, and
I think actually, I think it's the exact opposite. Where I think that.
I mean, again, it's a matter of perspective, where you're standing, where you're looking from. I just think that the concept of just wishing your wish away and that being the resolution to the story is so cheap. And the fact,
yeah.
I understand, like, where they wanted to end up and what they were trying to say and set up, and that's all well and good, but you could have done it better.
I mean, I can see that. I can definitely see that. What I will say is I think that, and we'll talk about this tonight, what I think the idea is that if you're going to suspend disbelief enough to have part of the story be magical wishing rocks, that once you establish that, and the MacGuffin is a magical wishing rock, which, to be fair, is the same MacGuffin in Endgame, is we have to get the magic wishing rocks, and then we can unwish the wish. It's literally the exact same thing.
Right, but it was done much more cleverly, with a much more nuanced and deft hand, to the point where the consequences mattered, and the reversing of the initial conflict was done in a way that felt difficult, that felt like they earned their resolution by fighting, by giving something up. Here it was just like, we get to the end and it's just like, oh, nobody in the entire world thought, hey, maybe I'll just say I take my wish back. And then with the immediate dire consequences of every single wish made that occurred to nobody is beyond what I'm willing to suspend.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that part is good, although I will say it is very comic booky. So I keep on going back and forth on this between praise and damnation with regard to it. And we'll talk about this tonight, but I do feel that she wanted to embrace very Silver Agey and Golden Agey storytelling ideas, much in the same way that
a wide departure from the last film and the atmosphere of the last film?
No, not in any way. I actually think it is. I think it is actually exactly the same film.
Interesting.
I think everything that people are going to claim about it is exactly that. Every derogatory aspect you might want to say about it is in place in the first film. From the hydrogen gas gag, which always bugged me. The hydrogen is so, like, if we're gonna say we can overlook hydrogen gas, I think we can overlook a lot of stuff.
I don't think they're in the same league.
No, hydrogen gas was stupid because hydrogen.
No.
The whole reason why it works is because it's a small molecule, and having a molecule, but it's not a small molecule once you make it poisonous. And also hydrogen, because it's a small molecule, that makes it float. So if you make it small enough so that you add, so if you made, hydrogen sulfide, which isn't actually a poisonous gas, so it'd be small enough to get through a gas mask, it's actually still going to be lighter than air. And actually, I think hydrogen sulfide actually is used in mustard gas anyway, so it actually wouldn't get past a gas mask. So there's all these things. I guess you could make hydrogen cyanide. Hydrogen cyanide might work.
Sounds like it would.
Yeah, hydrogen cyanide might work, but I think it also would be a lighter than air gas. So, hydrogen sulfide is more deadly, but I think hydrogen cyanide, because hydrogen cyanide is what they use, if I remember correctly, what they use in gas chambers. Because they drop the cyanide tablets into water, the hydrogen molecules bond to it, it becomes a gas. It floats up, and you breathe it, and then you die of cyanide gas. If I recall correctly, that's how a modern cyanide gas chamber works.
Wow.
And it's hydrogen cyanide. And yes, you could make hydrogen cyanide, but it also wouldn't work well for trench warfare because the gas is going to rise, not fall, which is what you want for trench warfare, so that gas gets into the thing. But anyway, but that's Wonder Woman 1. And I do think that and other things happen in Wonder Woman 1. That, again, you have the same kind of things in Wonder Woman 2. It's just that, I think I think that there was a lot that they were relying on the audience to pick up on in the film that I think a lot of people just went too quickly to see, and they didn't.
I think it was there to pick up on. It was picked up too easily. That's what I think. I think all those things are there, but it was just like thrown in your face, like, hey, buy this and buy this and buy this. It felt like infomercially with how much, it's like there was no nuance to it. That's the problem I had. I got the point.
That's a fair argument.
And all the crumbs they were laying, but, it wasn't done very.
But we're not talking about that. We're going to talk about that in about an hour. So right now, any final thoughts on The Mandalorian, Mozz?
The one thing I really appreciated was the whole time I've been watching this, the one parallel that I can't help but make is that I constantly see Master Chief from the Halo games whenever I'm looking at Mandalorian, because he also wears this helmet. He's also like, a really good fighter and a warrior, and he could take down, legions of men, and he never takes off his helmet either. And so with this final episode, there was a couple of scenes there that seemed like, and the fact that they put TPS reports as an homage to Office Space, I thought was really, really cool. So it lends me to believe that some of the things that felt to me like scenes from the original Halo game might have been there intentionally. Like when the soldiers are coming in, when the X-Wing is coming into dock in that exit port, a lot of those scenes look like scenes from the original Halo game. And then there's one little bit of dialogue where it says, negative, we're under attack. It felt like it was right out of a scene in the original Halo, where you're waiting for a pickup and she can't pick you up because they're under attack. And that bit of language sounded exactly like Cortana saying, negative, we're under attack. So I thought it was really cool that they threw some Halo references in there.
Well, I'm sure that is 100% what they were trying to do. For what it's worth, I think that, one thing that the Disney machine does is it gives creators a place to play, They say, yeah, you want to do this, do that. You want to do that, do this, go ahead. We're not going to, so long as people keep on watching the show, we don't care what you do. Don't make it too dirty because we're going to have kids watching it. But if you can keep it not being too dirty, we're going to let you go with it, And I think, that's what you get with Soul and everything else and all these other great bits of media that Disney is producing right now, because they're looking at the creators and saying, well, what do you guys want to do? You're the professional creators. We hired you to write this stuff. Tell us what you're going to write, Yeah. If we think that, if we're going to be, they're going to stand Leah. They're going to say, well, we're going to have some editors here and we're going to sit here. We're going to pull you back if we need to. But the fact of the matter is we're hiring you to do the work, We're not hiring you to tell you what story to tell. We're hiring you to tell the story. And I think that is where Disney is doing well. And I think that that's where, the other company, Warner's, is probably having some trouble. Although I actually think Warner's is learning that lesson. Again, everyone's mileage may vary. I actually have faith, and I'm a real optimist. I'm thinking they're gonna do it. You watch. But
the only place where I do have some optimism and some hope is with this dark DC universe with the Joker and the new Batman film with Robert Pattinson. I'm super excited for it. A lot of people are not so excited, or they're excited that Ben Affleck is coming back to do his version of Batman. I could care less. I'm super excited to see Robert Pattinson's Batman, and I want to see that universe continue.
I'm excited to see what they're going to do next, because I think they are trying. I think there's someone at DC who's trying to figure out what to do next.
Yeah.
And I think that more than anything else is what's important, is to have someone, this is what I always say. We didn't know who Kevin Feige was until, but we didn't know who Kevin Feige was before he was Kevin Feige.
Indeed.
He was just some guy from Disney who's a producer, and he's the producer on it. This guy named Kevin Feige, I don't know what he does,
Yeah.
And
I think they should just hire Favreau.
Disney has got that secret sauce locked up. They're not. Nope. We got plenty of work for you, sir. Don't worry. You've got.
Although that would be nice to see someday, his hand at that, to see what he could create. I think you cut out again, Charlie. All right.
That a creative created it and built it and never lost sight of the fact that we're here to tell stories. That's literally our job. We're not here to just make money, because we make money by telling stories. If we don't tell good stories, it's like, if someone said, "Oh, we could sell more. We could make Twinkies cheaper if we just made them out of sawdust." It's like, well, yes, but they're not going to be Twinkies anymore. They're not going to taste good, and no one will buy them. So it's just,
Oh, looks like I lost you altogether, Charlie. Hopefully we can get you. There you are.
There we are. Yeah.
All right.
So I don't know if you got my Twinkie rant there, but
we got the Twinkie made of sawdust. But like, I think with DC, I think they started off making with sawdust and not realizing it.
Yeah. Well, the problem was, I think that first they, and it's the Stan Lee effect. You can give a creator free reign, and a creator will create. But a creator won't always create good things. You need an editor to come in and say, you know what? Here's what works in your story. Here's what doesn't work. So let's write this so that it works, so that we can get your story across, but we're not going to, there's a reason why Stan Lee always wrote the words after Jack Kirby drew the pictures. Because often Stan Lee had to say, okay, now I've got to make this make sense. Jack drew a lot of pictures, and then it's not the story we wanted to tell. So let me just have our characters explain it in a way that makes more sense.
That's funny.
So, well, that's the thing. Everyone always wants to, take away from Stan Lee, but it's like, no, man, he's the guy writing the words. He's the guy putting in the script and saying, here's what they say, and here's how we make all these pictures make sense. And that, I think, that's what Marvel has in Kevin Feige. I think what Star Wars is right now having with maybe not Patty Jenkins, Christine Sullivan, and is it Christine Sullivan? I know her last name is Sullivan, and Jon Favreau. I think that these people are building I think they're letting the creatives build what they have, but there's always someone there who's trying to steer it within the canon. I do think, based on the latest Wonder Woman, I think there is someone who is helping Patty see where she should go next. And I think she accomplished her job, and that's why she got Wonder Woman 3. Because I think Wonder Woman 2 is going to make more sense later.
I hope so.
Yeah, and that's my thing. It's sort of like, when everyone's, when they go back, when you get to Endgame and they're revisiting all the films that, like, oh yeah, you thought Thor 2 was bad. Well, actually, here's how it fits into things.
But yeah,
you thought Iron Man 2 was bad. Here's how that fits into things.
Iron Man 2 and Iron Man and Thor 2 put together were nowhere near as bad as this movie was.
And again, I don't think any of those movies were bad.
That's my point. I thought this was bad. I didn't think any of the only one I could say that was bad was Iron Man 3, and even that I would rather watch that again than watch this movie.
Here's what I'll say is, I think that a lot of the times, especially with this film, I think the longer it sits with me, the more upset I get about things. But I think when I'm watching it, I enjoy it. And I think that's the goal for a good movie. I mean, I think every movie breaks apart when you watch it, when you think about it.
Yeah, but yeah, well,
that's the thing. No, I think Endgame is kind of stupid when you actually think about it, but it makes sense in the moment when you're watching it.
Right.
That's the thing.
That's the piece I missed.
Yeah, well, and like I said, that's why I think what had happened with me is when I went to do the rewatch with Wonder Woman, and with my criticisms, I was able to see, okay, do they answer my criticism? And I go, oh, okay, that's where they answer my criticism.
So, yeah, because see, my criticism wasn't with whether or not the plot worked out or not. It was like, you know, the decisions you made before you even started making the movie.
Yeah, so you
Be,
you have a problem with the MacGuffin, and there's nothing that's going to solve the MacGuffin. That's a MacGuffin problem.
Right, but like MacGuffins can be handled well. They just they handled a MacGuffin with a MacGuffin. It was almost like, you know, it was like you can choose to do this route, but you got to do it really cleverly to make it work. And if you fail at that, then it wasn't worth doing.
Yeah, what I will say is I think that a lot of times the MacGuffin works if you are, you know, the idea of the MacGuffin is that it needs to be, you need to not think about it too much while you're watching it. And I think this is the problem when it gets released streaming rather than in the movies. I think that basically a lot of the problems with this film have to do with the fact that it was released streaming rather than in the movie theaters. I think if you see it in the theater, it's going to be a different experience. The spectacle
would carry you through the suspension of disbelief.
Exactly. I think that just the idea that if you can stop it and go to the bathroom, while you're going to the bathroom or when you're getting a beer out of the fridge, you're going to have your fridge logic. You're going to have that moment where you start to go, wait a minute, why is that happening this way? Yeah.
Oh, no. Or just the fact that you're so wowed by this big tank fight that you're able to suspend disbelief a little bit easier. Whereas if you don't get that emotional burst, then you're too critical and you're still thinking too much rather than being buoyed by it. Yeah.
I don't think there's any part of the film that really pulled me out of it. That's just me. I don't think there's.
I was laughing the whole way through, incredulous, going, "Oh, really? Oh, what?" That's like,
well, but you know, but maybe that's a selling point too. I mean, sometimes you have to be willing to turn your brain off to watch a superhero film. You have to say, you know what? It's a film about superheroes. Just in that idea that, oh, here are people with fantastic abilities baked in. So it's like, you know what? Maybe we should, you know, it's what I always say. It's like, you know, you can't say that it's unrealistic that computers can do this, because clearly in this universe they can. Like you can't say, you can complain when something is internally not logical, but you can say, you can't say, oh, well, you know, a computer couldn't really go that fast, or a computer couldn't do that thing. It's like, well, no, maybe here computers are different. And when you're dealing with a super science world to start with, because we know that this is a super science world in general, they already have override technology beam.
Yeah.
You know, clearly that means that there's a super science in this universe already. So you have to suspend all disbelief about super science.
Hey, you know, I'm glad people were able to find enjoyment in it.
Yeah, some people did. A lot of people not so much. So that's that. Okay, Mozz. You know, Mozz, we've been having some audio difficulties in this. A lot of it's on my end. You know, but, you know, I think if it is on other people's end, they could probably solve that if they just went to tweakedaudio.com. Use the coupon code Southgate to get a discount on high-quality audio equipment to listen to our podcasts. Likewise, they can then take that same coupon code Southgate, go to hunterkiller.com, and get a discount on their product, which is essentially an escape room delivered to your house where you help Michelle Gray solve a cold case. It's a lot of fun. You and the whole family can enjoy it. Likewise, if you aren't interested in that but still want to help out the show, go down to our show notes, click on the Amazon link, go to Amazon, buy whatever the heck you feel like. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps out the show because they know that, oh, you were listening to our show before you went here, and so hey, we'll make sure that we give these guys some money. Do that, and while you're there, check out Pod Life, the book. That's the book written by the Southgate Media Group family about podcasting and why we do it. It's available both in digital download for your Kindle or other device, or just in a nice handy-dandy paperback in case there is an apocalypse and digital devices no longer work. All right, Mozz. In the meantime, how can people find you if they'd like to find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzoor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzoor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way Mozz and Paz once said at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Facebook. No, follow me on the Twitter. That's the one, as I live tweet DuckTales of Woohoo in their final season at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
Quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, all right, me hearties. You have come through us for one more season of The Mandalorian. Come and aboard us next week when we'll be doing our next show. And I don't know what it is yet because me and Mozz will talk about that later. But join us on Full Stream Ahead. Arr.
All right.
All right. So, question to you.
Yes.
Do you want to do another Full Stream Ahead episode at some point, or do you just want to go right into WandaVision after the 15th?
Let's see. What can we do in the, let's see if we can do the shorts.
Sure, if you want to do a short, yeah. Let's do do you want to do the let's do the Peggy Carter short.
Because that's readily available, right? It's on the end of Iron Man or something?
On the end of Iron Man
2?
Yeah, it's on the end of Iron Man, I think. I don't think it's Iron Man 2, I think it's Iron Man 1.
Oh, end of Iron Man 1.
It's either end of Iron Man 1 or it's end of Iron Man 2, but it's on one of the Iron Mans. Was it at the end of Thor? Maybe it's.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll find it. Or it might be. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's on one of. It's either. It's in that first run. It's either Iron Man, Iron Man 2, or Thor. But it predates, or was whatever one was just after First Avenger, maybe. No, because First Avenger was Iron. I don't know, but it's on there. Yeah. So let's do that, and we'll make that our first side-by-side episode of Enough Said. Full Stream Ahead.
We'll call it a post-credits episode.
Yes. So, yeah, let's watch that, and then we'll discuss that. We'll discuss that in the context. We'll do 2 intros, a Full Stream Ahead intro and a Enough Said intro, and likewise with the outros. So we'll do the intro twice and the outro twice.
Sounds good.
Then they will cut it up as they want to and use it for what they need to. And then those will start to drop over on Enough Said and eventually Full Stream Ahead.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. So that's our plan now. We'll talk to you later.
I'll talk to you
later. I'll talk to you about an hour. Yeah. Bye.
You got it. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.